So when you find yourself slipping into the ego, that's the moment that you say, no. That's the moment of surrender. No. And just come back. Back to your breath, back to the present moment, back to connection, back to compassion, back to your courage, back to your truth. And slowly, 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 it's not that the ego is annihilated and disappears. It's just that it recognizes it's not going to run the show anymore. And so it stops yelling so much. It stops being so loud. It realizes it's not in charge. So that's the best way that I have to think about it, is a real conscious awareness that my ego is taking me where I don't want to go. I want to be every minute and every moment more connected, more compassionate, more courageous, more conscious, more present, more aware, more mindful. And my ego is the exact antithesis of that. Our ego takes us into fear, into desire, into othering, into stories about ourselves, into judgments, into old patterns. So it's the exact opposite of the present moment. So every time you choose the present moment, you're surrendering the ego. Great. Other questions that anyone here might have? Yes, come on. Come. Yeah, into the microphone.
जय गंगे। वैसे तो लिस्ट लंबी है, पूरी डायरी साथ है। मुझे लास्ट
Start with one.
Yes. एक तो हमेशा एक कंफ्यूजन रहा मुझे कि ब्लैक मैजिक जैसा कुछ होता है या नहीं। एंड अदर क्वेश्चन उससे ही कनेक्टेड ये है कि प्रोफेशनल या पर्सनल लाइफ में यूजुअली ये होता है जब आप मास से जुड़े होते हो या पर्सनल लाइफ में आप किसी एक से जुड़ते हो तो बट ऑब्वियस बहुत सारे लोगों से ऑटोमेटिकली जुड़ जाते हो, तो उसमें काफ़ी नेगेटिव लोग भी होते हैं। जैसे हमें पॉजिटिव वाइब्रेशंस की इफेक्ट आती है तो नेगेटिव लोगों की भी इफेक्ट आनी है, तो उससे कैसे बचा जाए?
Great. So a two-part question. The first part is, does black magic actually exist? And second question is, how do we protect ourselves from negative energies? Because when you are, for example, in your personal life, you may be married to or connected to one person. But through that one person, there's so many other people, family members, acquaintances, neighbors, etc., etc. And there's, amidst all of those, there's so much negative energy also. How do we protect ourselves? So there definitely are practices that are the exact opposite of what we are meant to do here, which is share love and share goodness and share peace, and that are created to share pain. It absolutely exists, but every single thing that I have read or heard from any of the different masters is that the power of what you can think of as white magic, the power of goodness, the power of grace, always, always, always is more powerful than black magic. Light always dispels darkness. It doesn't matter how dark it is. It doesn't matter how thick the darkness is. Light will always dispel it. There's no darkness that is so strong that it cannot be dispelled by light. So yes, it exists, but it's not something to be afraid of. And if it is something that you think about or worry about, it just reminds you, align yourself with the light, because the light will always dispel the darkness. So align yourself with goodness. Align yourself with grace. Connect to that. It's like if you are a flashlight or a strobe light, there's nothing the darkness can do to that. You know, we're sitting here, it's probably around 7, but we could sit here till midnight or 1 in the morning. Doesn't matter how dark it gets. It can't do anything to that light. So it's a teaching to become the light, such that nothing can stick. When I was a kid at summer camp, we used to play this game in the lake that was sort of a mix of soccer, or what you call football here, or basketball, like any game where you're required to get a ball from one side to the other side. But in this game, instead of being a ball, it was a watermelon. So you imagine you've got 2 teams of kids in the water, and the goal is to get the watermelon from one side to the other to make a goal. But what they did was they covered the watermelon with grease, cooking grease. Like butter, margarine, and Cisco or something. They covered it with that. Now, imagine you're in the water. Imagine you try to grab a watermelon that has been covered with about an inch thick of cooking grease. What happens? You grab it, it goes, somebody else grabs it. Okay. Now, it was fun for kids in the lake, but it's a great metaphor for thinking about stickiness. Because there was no way to grab that watermelon as long as it was covered with grease. If it wasn't, no problem. But because it was covered with grease, nobody could actually grab it and hold it. And in the same way, if you think about covering yourself, you can think about it nicer, like ghee, rather than, some kind of gross cooking grease. But think about it like beautiful ghee or beautiful olive oil, right? And just think that your practices are covering you with this beautiful pure ghee or beautiful pure olive oil, however you envision it, such that nothing that anybody tries to throw at you energetically can stick. It'll all just come right off. And in terms of the people we interact with, lots of energy. And this is where I have my favorite, what I call my wetsuit technique. If you've ever been scuba diving or ever seen anybody who goes scuba diving, have you been? Okay, great. Lovely, lovely. So you know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so you put on a wetsuit. Now the wetsuit does not keep you dry, right? It allows in a little bit of water. The body heat of your body warms up that water so that when you go in as a scuba diver, you stay warm. Not because the ocean has become warm, not because you are untouched by water, but because your body heat has created a field around you, an energetic field of warmth around you, such that no matter how cold the ocean is, you are warm from your own heat. And I think about this a lot. It's a technique that I use a lot. I've shared it a lot. Is when you have to go into situations where you know you're going to be in the presence of a lot of negative energy. Before you go, sit down and have your beautiful meditation. And at the end of your meditation, imagine yourself literally zipping up your energetic spiritual wetsuit. And then take a few moments and literally warm up the energetic field, the psychic field or the auric field around you with your energy, such that now when you move through the world, you're moving through that world no matter how cold it might be, but you're in your spiritual wetsuit. So it's not about being disconnected. It's not about blocking people. It's not about having to warm up the whole ocean, changing everybody. It's just about being able to have your own wetsuit such that you are moving through a cold ocean in warm water. You're moving through negative energy in an energetic field of love. Beautiful. Yes.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
In recent times, I have been on this meditation journey on my spiritual path a little more consciously. It's a beautiful experience some of the times, and that's where has been one of my observations that, when you're meditating, there is this one of times you feel very peaceful, and then when you get back to your routine life, it's very noise.
Yes.
And that seems like a conflict. That switching between your spiritual path and your routine life seems like a very conflicting journey, something that can seemingly be tiring also, and make you choose one out of the two. How do we deal with that?
Great. So this is something a lot of people notice, of course. You come on a spiritual retreat, it feels beautiful. Then you go back home and it's the same noise all over again. It's because you haven't quieted the noise inside. All you've managed to do is quiet the noise outside. What spirituality and a practice of meditation is meant to do is actually bring you quiet on the inside, such that wherever you go, you're able to tap into that. It's not about creating quiet in the world around you. And that's beautiful. By all means, go on retreats, take time away, spend a weekend, a week, a month, whatever it is. But spirituality never says you have to leave your regular life. In order to stay peaceful or quiet, you have to leave a regular life. Especially if you've got a lot of responsibilities there. If you've got a family, if you've got other responsibilities. Spirituality doesn't say you have to leave them. But what you have to do is allow your quiet to permeate much deeper than just your ears, such that you experience this noiselessness amidst the noise. People ask all the time when people come from abroad, like, why does India worship the cow so much? It's a common question I get. And obviously there's religious, theological, philosophical, spiritual reasons that in India the cow is worshipped. But on a personal level, the reason that I actually worship the cow has nothing to do with any of the specific religious aspects, but it has to do with the fact that the cow, being a very intelligent creature, the cow is not stupid, but the cow is able to sit and essentially meditate in the midst of a busy road. You've got traffic going this way, traffic going that way, traffic going here, horns honking. And the cow is sitting in the middle of it. Not sleeping, just being. You think, wow, I want some of that. And again, it's not that she's stupid. It's not that she's unaware. But there is a presence of calmness and peace and inner stillness that it's like, yeah, you people go on about your noisy lives and I'm just going to be here in quiet. And it does. It just always makes you want to, bow down. Wow, give me some of that. How beautiful. This is what spirituality should give you, is an ability in the midst of the noise to find your inner noiselessness. You can get it on retreat. It's certainly easier to charge your batteries when the external world is also quiet. But that's not a sustainable spiritual practice. Because eventually you have to go places where it's noisy. I have people say to me here in the summertime, my God, it's so noisy I can't meditate. And I'll say to them, where are you from? And they'll say things like, Maine. Or, the English countryside, or places that have about 5 people per square kilometer. And I'll say, wait, you came to India looking for quiet? Like, if you can't meditate in Maine, clearly the problem is inside, not outside. What India gives us is the opportunity to find that inner quiet, such that you can meditate anywhere. And that's the point. So if you find that there's too much of a discrepancy back and forth, it means when you're on retreat, go deeper. It's very easy to just get lulled into quiet and stillness. It's very beautiful. And it's very easy to just sort of drift around in your meditative state. Drift around in that sort of bliss state of it's peaceful and it's quiet and isn't this nice. But take it a bit deeper. Take it deeper. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going deeper. Until you find an inner stillness that's not just the mind on holiday, but a really deep inner stillness because it has stopped identifying. Not only with the noise in the outside world, but with your identification with the outside world. Because that's the noise. The noise is not a door opening and closing or a car beeping. We meditate in here all the time with cars going here and people in the rooms opening and shutting and whatnot. The thing that disturbs your meditation isn't someone opening or closing a door. It's the mind with anger and grudges and competition and judgments. And sadly, you take that everywhere you go. You go home, the mind is with you. So go deeper. Go deeper to a point where you have unhooked your mind from all of that. When you have unhooked your awareness from that, that's the freedom. The deeper you go when you're here, the more it'll last when you go back. Great. Yeah. We'll take this as the last question tonight.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
I find it a little bit also a difficult topic, but I'm curious what you think about the presence of phones and in our daily life, because sometimes it feels like it can take us out of the present.
The presence of phones.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so it can take us out of the present moment, and it's kind of like evolving every time in more.
Yes,
So I'm curious your thoughts about this.
absolutely. The mobile phone, the smartphone, it's a tool, it's a technology. It's like fire. It can cook your food or it can burn down your house. In some cases, the phone is great. Things like Google Maps, never lost. In emergency, being able to contact people. I mean, there's a lot of great value in it. And it is an enormous contributor to our distraction, our disconnection, depression. And this is documented evidence. But here's the thing, like with any tool, we get to decide how to use it. The problem is not the phone itself. The problem is how we let ourselves be used by it. And this is where we have to take control. First it was TVs and video games and then computers and this. We're going to keep having more and more technology that is designed to distract us. And of course, wherever there's money involved, it's worse. So when commercials came on TV shows became much more with violence and sex and this and that because they needed people to watch in order to get money from advertisers. So you started seeing much more sensationalism stuff. It's where the news channels started essentially fighting for who can grab people's attention worse. Because all their money comes from advertisers. Same now with smartphones. But just as we have the ability to turn the TV off, or we have the ability to change the channel, we have the ability with our phones, and I very strongly recommend that people use it. I don't think that the highest goal here is to somehow imagine that we're going to reprogram our minds to be able to be efficient, effective, happy, peaceful, connected, while we are simultaneously being distracted every 6 seconds. Physical evolution doesn't work so fast. We are the result of tens of millions of years of evolution. Our brains are not going to evolve quickly enough to allow us to live healthily, mentally, with these devices in charge. We've got to use our control over them. And the great thing is they all have the ability to use control. Turn off your notifications. Put on Do Not Disturb. My phone is pretty much on Do Not Disturb from about 9:30 at night to about 8:30 in the morning. Now, if it rings, you program it. Do you have close family members who might call you if it's an emergency? Great. Put them all in as favorites. You can program it in such a way if any of them calls, it rings through. You can see messages. It's not that you can't see them. It just doesn't bleep or ring or beep or vibrate or give you some kind of notification. It doesn't do anything. I've programmed my phone to shut down all of my apps except the phone. 10 o'clock at night to 8 o'clock in the morning. Now, I can override it if I need to send an important message, or I'm traveling somewhere in the morning, I need to be in touch with the driver. You can override it. Just says ignore limit for today. You can override it. But the point is, like, this is stuff you've got to do. And it's all there. It's all easy. 5 minutes of programming. I didn't pay for any special software or apps or anything. It's all built into the phone. Just use it. I mean, to get notifications for social media in general is just absurd. No one should ever get a notification for social media. There's no reason for that whatsoever. There's no reason to get notifications for WhatsApp groups unless the group is like your kids. Program it. Where are the places that you get urgent information? Maybe a text message, maybe an individual WhatsApp, maybe a phone call. Okay. Notifications for those 3 stay on, everything else is off. You want to check Facebook? No problem. Click on Facebook. It's right there. But you don't need it constantly sending you things. Just spend some time figuring out how you can make this device work for you rather than you working for it. Because otherwise, it'll absolutely. It steals our concentration. It steals our attention. It's programmed to do that by people with gazillion dollars, way smarter technologically than we are, so don't think you can outsmart them. Just use your power of autonomy, the same power that parents have used with kids as long as TVs have existed, where parents say, turn off the TV now, it's time to go to bed. Or no TV till your homework's done. No TV at the dinner table. Right? I mean, we remember these rules when we were growing up, those of us my age and older. I don't know why parents these days are so much more afraid to put in rules. You see kids sitting at tables in restaurants on their phone, on their iPad, playing video games, watching movies. I didn't know anybody who was allowed to watch TV while they ate dinner. There were rules. And if our parents didn't give them to us for the smartphone, well, you got to give them to yourself. Reparent yourself. But if you don't put those rules on it, nobody will. Do not expect the manufacturers of the devices or of the apps. They don't have your best interest at heart. They have their pocketbook at heart. Just like it's like expecting the makers of alcohol or cigarettes or something to kind of leap out of the advertisement and say, wait, don't buy this. They've got a business to run. But just because they advertise it doesn't mean we have to drink it or smoke it. There's always been temptations. We've always had to exert our mind over the pull of temptations and advertisements and whatnot. And this is just a new form of that. It's definitely a bit more insidious. It's more powerful. You got to carry it with you all the time. But just consider it a challenge. And just make sure that you're always using it rather than it using you. Great. Wonderful. Okay, yes. Sorry, I know I said last, but I always make an exception for kids. And she can work the mic herself. Perfect.
Is the main aim of our life to attain like God and be detached or not independent like on our emotions and people. If this is true, how do I achieve it? If not, what is the main aim of our life and how do I achieve that?
Beautiful. Come sit here with me. Ye mic lana bhi cordless wala. Okay, so I'm going to repeat your question, make sure that I understood it. And if I get anything wrong, just let me know, okay? So she's at, what is your name?
Adya.
Adya. Beautiful. So she's asked, is the meaning of our life to attain God and therefore to detach ourselves from other people and other things? Yes. And if so, how do I do it? And if not, what is the meaning of our life? Was that correct?
Yes.
Okay, great question. So the good news is, yes, you're absolutely right. The point of our life is to attain God. But it doesn't mean that you have to actually detach from people. Because people are also God. Every one of us has been created by God, and we are God. God is right here in you. God is not separate from you. Is that your mom? Yeah. So God is in her, not separate from her. So you don't actually have to detach from people. What you have to detach from is the things that you want people to do for you. So, for example, no need to detach from mom. Love mom. But when you say, Mom, I want pizza, and mom says no, and then you say, I hate you, that's what pulls you away from the purpose of your life. That attachment to eating pizza, nothing wrong with pizza. You get it, great, enjoy it. But you don't get it, no problem. If you are so attached to the pizza that when mom doesn't give it to you, you hate mom, then you've lost that connection with God. Pizza has taken away your connection with God. So, as we find God inside ourselves. We find God inside all of these people sitting here. Every one of them has God in them, is God. But we detach from the things that make us forget that. So we detach from the things that make us angry or make us feel greedy, because those things pull us away from God. So if we want something from mom, so I'm just going to be really, really nice to mom so that she gives me cookies. I know I'm not supposed to have cookies today, but maybe if I'm really nice to mom, she's going to give me cookies. So my attachment is not to mom, my attachment is to cookies. In my mind, I'm not thinking God, I'm not thinking mom, I'm thinking cookies, 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 cookies. And if she doesn't give me the cookies, then I'm angry at mom. Now that has pulled me away from God. So what you need to detach from is the little things that you think you want, that you think you need. The things that make you angry if you don't get them. The things that make you say, it's not fair, I hate you, I'm angry, those sorts of things. You detach from that. But you stay attached to God inside of her, and to God inside of you, and to God inside of everybody, and God inside of the trees, and God inside of the animals, and God inside of the grass. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Oh, good. Wonderful. Thank you for such a beautiful question.
Thank you.
Have a beautiful, beautiful night, everyone. Looking so forward to see you tomorrow. Have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful evening.